निवासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते.
Okay, now time to get to description of hell. The sages asked, how do sinners enter the city through the southern gate? O stores of austerity, we wish to hear about this. Please tell us in detail. Vyasa replied, I will tell you about that awful gate. It is terrible and extremely terrible. It is full of many kinds of predatory creatures, and there are the howls of hundreds of female jackals. It is full of shrieks. It is impossible to traverse and makes the body hair stand up. It is surrounded by bhutas, pretas, pishachas and other rakshasas. Okay. Now a big footnote is given for all the specific translations. A preta is a ghost, the spirit of a dead person, or simply something evil. A bhuta has the same meaning. Strictly speaking, there are differences between preta, bhuta and pishacha, one who lives on flesh. A preta is the spirit, not necessarily evil, of a dead person before the funeral rites have been performed. A bhuta, not necessarily evil again, is the spirit of a dead person who has had a violent death and for whom proper funeral rites have not been performed and may not have and may not even be performed. A pishacha, necessarily evil, is often created deliberately through evil powers. So now back to Vyasa's quote. Evildoers see such an extremely terrible gate. They are suddenly overcome by confusion and lament in fear. They are cruelly dragged, bound in chains and nooses. They are repeatedly beaten with sticks and censured. When they regain their senses, they enter through the southern gate, covered in blood and stumbling at every step. There are sharp thorns along the path, which is strewn with gravel. There are rocks that are as sharp as a razor's edge. Some places are covered with mud. There are moats one cannot cross. Some places have iron needles that are like teeth. In some places, mountains and trees have fallen down and blocked the way. Miserable, they travel along a path covered with burning lamps of coal. In some places, there are dangerous pits. In others, there are extremely slippery rocks. There is sand that is very hot, or there are sharp spikes. Some places have hot iron plates, while others have forest conflagrations. Some places have hot boulders, others are covered with ice. In other places, there is sand, and as soon as one enters, one sinks all the way up to one's neck. Some places are covered with foul water, while others are strewn with blazing husk. Some places have terrible lions, wolves, tigers, gnats and insects. Some places have giant leeches, while others have pythons. Some places have fierce flies, other places have poisonous snakes. Some places have wicked elephants and horses, crazy because of their strength. In some places, giant bulls with sharp horns dig up the path. Angry and crazy buffaloes with huge horns devour them, as do fierce dakinis, female demons, and horrible rakshasas. As they proceed, they suffer from extremely terrible ailments. The extremely strong wind is mixed with a huge storm of dust. Large rocks shower down and strike them, and they are without any shelter. In some places, as they proceed, they are shattered by bolts of lightning. They are pierced all over with a giant shower of arrows. Thunder and extremely fierce meteors descend on them. As they enter, they are scorched by showers of burning coal. They are shrouded in a great shower of dust and weep. They are repeatedly frightened by the extremely terrible roaring of the clouds. They are crushed by the showering down of arrows everywhere. As they proceed, they are sprinkled by large downpours of alkaline water. There is an extremely cold, harsh and rough wind. It shatters them from every direction, drying them and making them shrivel. Along this path, men may have no provisions to sustain themselves. It is very difficult to pass, and they are without a shelter. There is no water in any direction. They suffer from that great exhaustion, but there is no place of refuge. All the foolish embodied evildoers are conveyed in this way by Yama's extremely powerful messengers, who use force to carry out his commands. They are alone and have no independent will. They are devoid of friends and relatives. They grieve over their own deeds and weep repeatedly. They cannot yet turn into pretas. Their throats are parched and their palates are dry. They are emaciated and scared. Those who are not scared are scorched by the flames of hunger. Some are tied in chains, some other are hung downwards. Yama's messengers, fierce in their strength, parch them and drag them along. There are men with their faces hanging downwards. As they are dragged along, they are extremely miserable. Though they ask repeatedly, they are not given food or water. In voices choking with tears, they plead, "Please give, please give." They are miserable and join their hands in salutation, suffering from hunger and thirst. They can see superior and inferior kinds of food and every kind of drink. There are fragrant objects. Seeing these, they ask repeatedly. They can see curds, milk and ghee mixed with shali rice. There are fragrant and cool drinks and water. On seeing these, they ask. However, Yama's terrible servants have eyes that are red at the ends. They censure them in harsh words. Yama's servants say, "You did not offer oblations at the right time. You did not give to Brahmanas. When something was given to Brahmanas, you forcibly stopped that. The fruits of those sins have now appeared. O wicked ones! Earlier, you did not give your property to Brahmanas. Where is it now? It has not been burnt in fire. It has not perished in water. Nor has it not been stolen by kings or bandits. These heaps of rice should be thought of as those donations which should have been given to virtuous ones full of sattva. This food has all the types, bhoksha, peya, lehya and choshya. Since you never gave these, you will not get these. Food is always brought here and given to those who have offered oblations, performed sacrifices and given to Brahmanas. O those who will go to Naraka, how can we give you what belongs to others?" Hearing the words of the servants, though they still suffer from hunger and thirst, they become indifferent. Yama's servants strike them with terrible weapons, clubs, iron rods, spears, javelins, spikes, bludgeons, catapults, clubs, battle axes, and arrows. Extremely cruel, Yama's messengers strike them from the rear. From the front, lions, tigers, and other creatures devour the evildoers. They can neither get in nor can they leave, but suffer from great misery. Suffering because of what they themselves have done, the sinners shriek in extremely hideous tones. In this way, the men are made to suffer a great deal. Yama's servants then make the sinners enter and take them to the place where Yama himself is present. Yama has Dharma in his soul. He is the god who censures Dharma. He is the one who controls everyone. After having suffered a lot along the path, the men reach the city of the dead. The messengers present them in front of Yama. The evildoers, perverse in their intelligence, see the terrible one with his eyes fixed on the sinners. His cruel face is fanged, his forehead is furrowed, and his glance is harsh. He has a large beard, and his hair stands up. His lower lip throbs. The angry one has 18 arms and resembles a mass of blue collyrium. All the weapons are upraised in his hands, and he also holds his terrible staff. His eyes are like blazing flames, and he is astride a giant buffalo. His garments and garlands are red, and he is as lofty as a gigantic cloud. His voice is like the roar of the cloud of universal destruction when it drinks up the great ocean. He seems to devour the three worlds and vomit flames. Mrityu is near him, with a complexion like that of the fire of destruction. The terrible Kritanta, the destroyer, is also there, resembling the fire of universal destruction. The foremost demon, Mahamari, is there, and so is the terrible Kalaratri. Mahamari is epidemic, Kalaratri is terrible night. There are many kinds of ailments and hardships in diverse fearful forms. They hold javelins, spears, goads, nooses, chakras and swords. They are fierce, holding vajras, staffs, razors, quivers and bows. They are known to be cruel and immensely valiant, with complexions like that of collyrium. Yama's messengers are horrible, with every kind of weapon upraised in their hands. He is surrounded by these extremely terrible ones. The sinners see Yama and the terrible Chitragupta. Yama reprimands the sinners a lot. The illustrious Chitragupta enlightens them with words of Dharma. Chitragupta says, "O performers of evil deeds, O ones who stole the possessions of others, O ones insolent because of beauty and valor, O ones who outraged the wives of others, You will now enjoy the karma that you have yourselves done. Why did you perform wicked deeds and bring this calamity on your own selves? Suffering from your own karma, why are you lamenting now? Enjoy the miseries you are yourselves responsible for. It is not anyone else's fault. O lords of the earth who have come before me now, you were evil in intelligence and insolent because of your strength, performing terrible deeds. O king wicked in deeds. You were responsible for subjects getting destroyed. For the sake of a kingdom that could last for a short period, why did you perform wicked deeds? Confused by your greed for the kingdom, you used force to unfairly punish subjects. O kings, enjoy the fruits now. Where is the kingdom and the wife for whom you performed these inauspicious deeds? Abandoning all of that, you are stationed here alone. We cannot see the strength you used to destroy subjects. You have been flung down by Yama's messengers. This is the kind of fruit that has resulted now. In this way, Yama also makes them understand with many kinds of words. The evildoers and kings stand there, grieving and silent. After instructing the kings about their deeds, Dharmaraja himself speaks and states how the sins can be purified. Yama says, O Chanda, O Mahachanda, seize these kings. This is Chanda properly, right? O Chanda, O Mahachanda, seize these kings. In the fires of one Naraka after another, purify their sins. They rise swiftly and seize the kings by their feet. Whirling them with great force, they throw them up and seize them again. Depending on the magnitude of the sin, Yama's messengers then violently strike them against a flat piece of rock, like the Vajra striking a large tree. Shattered in this way, they exude streams of blood. The embodied being loses his senses and can no longer move. Touched by the wind, he gradually regains his senses. To purify the sins, the man is then hurled into an ocean of narakas. The number, listing and names of narakas varies from one text to another. O Indras among Brahmanas, other evil-doing and extremely miserable men are presented before Yama by the messengers. Yama's messengers say, O God, following your instructions, we have brought this extremely deluded person before you. He has always been engaged in great sins and has turned his face away from Dharma. This one is avaricious and wicked in conduct. He has perpetrated major sins and minor sins too. He is impure and has always engaged in violence. This evil-souled one has had intercourse with those one shouldn't have intercourse with. He has stolen the possessions of others. This one has sold his daughter and bore false witness. He is ungrateful and has deceived his friends. This one is insolent and has always criticized Dharma. In the mortal world, this evil-souled one has performed wicked deeds. O Lord of the gods, now tell us whether he should be punished or shown favors. We will not act contrary to what our masters ask us to do. Having placed these evildoers before the Lord of the gods and informing him, the messengers leave to bring other thousands, lakhs and hundreds of crores of men who deserve to go to hell. When the crime committed has been ascertained, Yama instructs his own dreadful servants to punish the evildoers. The punishment is according to what Vasishtha and others have determined. Angrily, Yama's servants act so as to extinguish the sins. The sinners are struck and brought down with goads, clubs, staffs, saws, spears, javelins, swords and tridents. There are thousands, lakhs and hundreds of crores of men destined for hell. Yama's servants make them suffer because of the sins they themselves have accumulated through their deeds. Hear about the nature of these terrible narakas, their names and their dimensions. Such men go there. There is a famous naraka known as Mahavichi. Mahavichi means literally great waves, and it is flooded with blood. It extends for 10,000 yojanas and is strewn with thorns as tough as the Vajra. Immersed there, they are crushed and pierced with thorns as tough as the Vajra. A man who kills a cow suffers in this extremely awful Naraka for 100,000 years. The extremely terrible Kumbhipaka, where one is cooked in pots, extends for 10 million yojanas. It is full of copper pots and is covered with hot sand and coals. A person who kills a Brahmana, steals land or appropriates what is given in trust, is hurled and burnt there until all beings are destroyed in the flood. Raurava, literally the dreadful one, more specifically a place where sinners are devoured by animals known as Rudu. That is the place called Raurava. Raurava is enveloped in flames and has iron stakes that are as tough as the Vajra. It extends for 60,000 yojanas. In that hall, men are impaled with blazing iron stakes, like sugarcane. Just as sugarcane is crushed to extract juice, men who bear false witness are made to suffer there. The Naraka known as Manjusha, meaning shaped like a box, is made out of blazing iron. Those who have been seized and imprisoned are hurled there and burnt. The Naraka named Apratishta, meaning lacking in stability, is full of pus, urine and excrement. A person who makes a Brahmana suffer falls there, with his head facing downwards. O supreme among Brahmanas, the Naraka Lakshaprajvalita, meaning full of flaming lac, is dreadful and polluting. A drunkard is immersed there and burnt. The Naraka known as Mahaprabha, meaning extremely resplendent, is full of lofty and blazing spears. A person who causes dissension between a husband and a wife is pierced with spears there. The extremely dreadful Naraka Jayanti, meaning the one which conquers, is full of rocks made out of iron. There, sinners who associate with the wives of others are struck with these. The Naraka known as Shalmala, named after the silk cotton tree which is full of thorns, has tough and blazing thorns. A woman who has intercourse with many men has to embrace these and becomes miserable. The tongues of those who always utter falsehoods and hurt others have their tongues plucked out and sliced off by Yama's assistants and servants. Yama's servants use iron spikes to pierce the eyes of those who cast sidelong glances full of attachment towards the wives of others. Those who have intercourse with mothers, sisters, daughters and daughters-in-law, and those who kill women, children and the aged, suffer there for as long as there are 14 Indras. That is, for the duration of 14 Manvantaras. There is a dreadful Naraka known as Maharaurava, that is full of garlands and flames, meaning the great Raurava. It extends for 14,000 yojanas. A foolish man who burns down a city, a field, a home or a village with fire is burnt there for the duration of a kalpa. The one known as Tamisra, meaning darkness, extends for 100,000 yojanas. It is terrible. Men who are thieves are made to fall down there and are struck by Yama's servants with swords, double-edged swords, clubs, tridents, spears, maces and other swords for the duration of 300 kalpas. The one known as Mahatamisra, meaning the great Tamisra, is double the size of Tamisra. It is full of leeches and snakes and is devoid of light, causing great misery. A person who kills a mother or a father or kills a trusting friend remains there and is destroyed for as long as the earth lasts. The Naraka named Asipatravana, where there are trees with leaves that are like swords, Asipatravana, gives rise to great sorrows. It extends for 10,000 yojanas and is full of blazing swords. Having fallen down there, the sinner is struck with hundreds of swords. A person who kills a friend is sliced there, for as long as beings are not destroyed in the deluge. The Naraka known as Karambavaluka, full of mud and sand, extends for 10,000 yojanas. It is in the shape of a well and is surrounded with blazing sand, coal and thorns. Those extremely dreadful people who burn others or always use false pretexts are burnt and pierced there for 110,300 years. The Naraka named Kakola. The name has no obvious meaning but may mean a place full of boars and ravens. The Naraka named Kakola is full of worms and pus. Evil-souled ones who eat sweetmeats alone are flung there without sharing. if someone eats sweetmeats without sharing. The Naraka named Kudmala, full of foul filth, is full of urine and blood. Men who do not perform the 5 sacrifices meant for householders, are hurled there. Mahabhima, meaning extremely terrible, has an extremely foul stench and is full of flesh and blood. Worst among men who are addicted to eating what should not be eaten fall down there. Mahavata is full of worms, insects and corpses. Mahavata means the giant noose. If a man sells his daughter, he falls down there and is made to hang face downwards. The Naraka named Tilapaka, where one is cooked like sesamum seeds, is extremely dreadful. Those who cause sufferings to others are crushed there like sesamum seeds. In the Naraka Tailapaka, the ground is flooded with hot oil, where one is cooked in oil. A person who has killed a friend or someone who has sought refuge is cooked there. The one named Vajrakapata, with doors that are like the Vajra, has chains that are like the Vajra. Those who sell milk are made to cruelly suffer there. The one known as Niruchvasa, without any breathing, Niruchvasa, has blinding darkness and is devoid of wind. Those who obstruct donations to Brahmanas are rendered immobile and flung there. The one named Angaropachaya, collection of coal, Angaropachaya, is dazzling with burning coal. A person who says he will give something to a Brahmana but does not give it is burnt there. Naraka Mahapai, the great excrement. Etymologically, the meaning doesn't follow immediately, so this meaning is subjective. Naraka Mahapai extends for 100,000 yojanas. Those who always indulge in false conversations are made to fall down there, heads facing downwards. Naraka Mahajwala, literally the great blaze, is horrible, radiant and blazing. A man with wicked intelligence is burned there for a very long time. In the Naraka known as Krakacha, literally a saw, men who are addicted to having intercourse with those one should not have intercourse with are sliced with fierce saws that are as sharp as the Vajra. Naraka Gudapaka, where one is cooked in molasses, is surrounded by lakes full of flaming molasses. A man who causes a mixture of the Varnas is flung there and burned. Naraka Shuradhara, as sharp as a razor, is full of sharp razors. Until the end of the Kalpa, men who steal the land of Brahmanas are sliced there. Okay, I'll just underline this. Naraka Gurapaka, you'll be cooked with gur basically, is surrounded by lakes full of flaming molasses. A man who causes a mixture of Varnas is flung there and burnt. So there's basically no scriptural basis, maybe at least not according to Brahma Purana, for mixing of Varnas. But of course, if someone bypasses Brahma Purana, they are not really actively persecuted that much. That is the inherent ever-going conflict of Hinduism, which makes it sort of tolerant or vulnerable at the same time. Until the end of the Kalpa, men who steal the land of Brahmanas are sliced there. The Naraka known as Ambarisha is radiant with the fire of universal destruction. Ambarisha meaning a frying pan. A person who steals gold is burnt there for 1 crore of kalpas. The Naraka named Vajrakuthara is full of Vajras. Vajrakuthara meaning axes that are Vajras. Evildoers who cut down shades of trees are sliced there. That is the branches. The Naraka known as Paritapa, literally lamentation, blazes with the fire of universal destruction. A poisoner or an evildoer who steals honey is cooked there, or steals liquor is cooked there. Honey or liquor. The Naraka Kala Sutra, literally a string thread of destiny, is fashioned out of strings of Vajra. Those who plunder the crops of others are whirled around there and sliced. The Naraka named Kashmala, which means foul or dirty, is full of phlegm, 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 and mucus from the nose. Men who are addicted to liquor and flesh are hurled there for the duration of a kalpa. Naraka Ugragandha, you all know what it means, with a foul stench. Naraka Ugragandha is full of saliva, urine and excrement. Those who do not offer pindars to ancestors are hurled into that Naraka. The Naraka named Durdhara, impossible to tolerate, is full of leeches and scorpions. A person who accepts a bribe remains there for 10,000 years. Naraka Vajra Mahapira, where Vajras cause great suffering, is fashioned out of Vajra. Those who steal riches, grain, gold and objects belonging to others are flung into this and burnt, tortured by Yama's servants. So all socialists are going to Vajra Mahapira and bureaucrats are going to Durdhara. Yama's messengers use razors to slice those thieves into tiny bits. For foolish ones who kill living beings and eat them, till the end of the kalpa, Yama's servants make them eat their own flesh like crows and vultures. If people steal seats, couches and garments belonging to others like sugarcane, they are crushed there. Okay, so like sugarcane they are crushed there, as are men who bear false witness. The Naraka described as Ayasa, made of iron, is made out of blazing iron. Those who seize and imprison others are flung there and burnt. Naraka Atratishtha, meaning stay here, is full of pus, urine and excrement. Those who criticize the Smriti texts and the Vedas fall there, with their heads facing downwards. The Naraka known as Parilumpa or Parilumpa, which means full of torments, full of torments. Parilumpa is full of vultures, dogs and wolves. Those who kill the young and the aged. We have corrected a typo in the text which says Krudha, angry, instead of Vridha, aged. Those who kill the young and the aged are scorched in that terrible place. The Naraka named Karala, meaning dreadful, is full of dreadful pretas. A person who makes Brahmanas suffer is devoured by Rakshasas there. The terrible Naraka Vilepana, literally meaning a smearing of ointment, Vilepana. The terrible Naraka Vilepana is full of blazing lac, LAC. O excellent Brahmanas, drunkards are immersed there and burnt. Naraka Mahapreta, meaning a giant preta, has a lofty and blazing trident, Trishul. There, that trident is used to pierce those who cause dissension between a husband and a wife. Naraka Mahaghora, extremely terrible, has a blazing iron slab. Blazing iron slab. A wicked person who has intercourse with another person's wife is dragged on it. The Naraka known as Shalmali, meaning the silk cotton tree full of thorns. The silk cotton tree full of thorns. The Naraka known as Shalmali has a tree with firm and blazing thorns. A man who seeks out the weaknesses of others is made to embrace this and suffers from grief. If people utter lies or truth that hurts others, Yama's assistants and servants pluck out their tongues. Truths or lies that hurt others. Shit. Those who have intercourse with mothers, sisters, daughters or daughters-in-law are hurled on masses of burning coals by Yama's servants and burnt. If foolish people take away the Dharma, homes, gold or possessions of others, Yama's messengers pierce them with javelins and spikes. In this case, taking away Dharma means obstructing the practice of Dharma. If those with evil intelligence steal fruits and leaves of other men, Yama's angry messengers burn them, like grass being burnt by the fire. If a man with evil intelligence is always attached to the objects or wives of others, Yama's messengers dig out his heart with a blazing trident. If men turn themselves away from Dharma in deeds, thoughts and words, in Yama's world, they receive terrible and severe hardships. In this way, there are hundreds, thousands, lakhs and hundreds of crores of Narakas. Men who perform evil deeds go to these. Even if a man does even the slightest bit of something that is inauspicious, he obtains terrible hardships in a Naraka in Yama's world. Foolish men do not listen to the virtuous words spoken by Dharma. Instead, they reply, "Who has himself seen all this?" Men who make efforts to perform wicked deeds day and night. Those who are confused and deluded and do not follow Dharma. And those who wish to enjoy fruits in this world and turn themselves away from the world hereafter are worst among men. They fall into extremely dreadful narakas. Residence in naraka is terrible, but residence in heaven brings happiness. By undertaking inauspicious and auspicious deeds, men respectively go there. Wow. This was the end of this subchapter. Next subchapter is called Destination of the Virtuous. Okay, so where are the good people going? That's what will be described next.
जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते